And here we are, live. Food and beverage brought to life. Live, juicy inside scoop from the tastemakers, newsmakers, bread bakers, drink shakers, spoon lickers, clam diggers, farmers, foodies, and friends of the Food and Beverage Magazine World. And today, do we have a doozy? Hi, Jennifer.
Hello. Greetings from the city of gastronomy.
What city is that?
Tucson, Arizona, was named by UNESCO as North America's first city of gastronomy.
So it's a gassy place?
No, it's gastronomy. We have.
I get it. I get it. But sometimes if I eat onions, I get a little too gastronomical.
Listen, for 4,000 years, people have been coming to this region and cultivating food, growing food, making food, sharing food, and food was your medicine, and it was your cuisine, and it was your culture, and it was your currency. Food was everything, and we still kind of feel that way.
I love that. Did they make their bread with their feet?
What?
I don't know. You said 4,000 years. I figured they'd be making bread with their feet.
Well, they're rocking a baby cradle with one foot and making bread with the other, that kind of thing?
I mean, they weren't on their cell phones. What were they doing?
Listen, I'm going to tell you, 4,000 years later, we are still celebrating and perfecting the art of delicious, because this time of year, right after Passover, is one of the most insider secret times of year. If you know what to look for, you can get some of the best, freshest, most delicious bargains of the year in your grocery store. If you're willing to put on your rubber gloves and mask and take a little bit of a risk, you can be rewarded. So I'm going to show you, you know this product, right? This
Manischewitz.
Yes, but it's not just the Manischewitz macaroons.
It's the Pesach Macaroons.
They're the Passover macaroons that come out. They're produced right in terms of on time and freshness. There are certain things that these companies are making, and they make them fresh. The potato chips that Manischewitz does once a year for Passover, they're delicious.
You know what?
Macaroons,
you know what, Jennifer?
What?
Let's get the owner of Kadem, right?
Yes.
On the show and talk about this with him.
Okay, I'd love that. But while this is kind of their competitor, but so we all know and grew up with and love the macaroons at Passover time. This is a slightly unusual can. It looks a little green. This is pistachio and orange scented macaroons, fresh for Passover. And guess what? Can you see?
50% off, Jennifer. You're just missing it. There you go. 50% off at the Safeway store.
At the Safeway. They're in a shopping cart in the back of the store. I saw the very familiar logo and I thought, that's right.
So you're her.
I am.
You're her. You're the little old lady in the back of the Safeway digging through the shopping cart.
I am. I'm her.
I love it. I love being her. But
Listen,
you know who's going to love this? Our guest.
Listen, I'm going to show you something. These are wonderful, delicious pistachio orange. They're fresh. They're soft. They're nice with a cup of coffee.
Don't go too far. We're not getting paid. We're not getting paid for this, Jennifer. Slow down a little bit with this.
I'm somebody's nana. They just don't know it yet.
That's true. But let's bring on the Zadie. Let's bring on the Bubby. Let's talk about who we got on the show today. We got a couple of good ones today.
I love it. I wear my aprons all the time.
We've got two handsome men on the show today that I won't even be able to compete with. Starting with Neil Sherman, right?
Swoon worthy. If I have to tell you, I've been very nervous and excited about having him on the show because he's about to tell us some secrets. And he's about to also have a really, really good year because
he's about to have the best year he's ever had. You're right.
I'm predicting. And you have to remember that, like the phoenix rising from the ashes, he plays an integral role in helping us evolve into the newness. And when one door
like the hand
opens,
of God.
Well, when one door closes, another opens. I mean, we just have to embrace that this is what happens.
I just hope he doesn't bore the audience.
What?
I just hope he doesn't bore the audience.
No, Michael, it's impossible.
Well, let's find out.
Not only will he not do that, this is I'm so excited about today. I really,
kind of hope we
am
have an
excited.
audience for him to bore. Really.
Oh, stop you!
I'm just kidding.
You're
Should we
funny.
bring him on? You want
Yes.
introduce Neil Sherman. Introduce him. You
Well,
you're lovely. Bring him on.
Listen, if we were to talk about, everybody knows that Food and Beverage Magazine is a compilation of the best industry resources that you could possibly find. There are people in this industry, in the hospitality, in the consumer products industry, in the restaurant industry, that are the real movers and shakers. And what happens is that we bring them all together in the pages of Food and Beverage Magazine, and they become our friends in the business. And so literally this show is having conversations with our friends in the business. And we have a friend who's, including later on today, we're going to talk to, that was not David Beckham, by the way. That is our guest later today. That's Garrett Green.
But it's the magazine. I'm showing the current issue, May 2020.
This hit the newsstands today.
And you know what, Jennifer? Let's bring on Neil, because he should have been in May 2020 and June. He should be. He should be advertising in Food and Beverage, I think, because I think that it's a winner. It's a winner concept. Winner. Let's bring him on. Where's Neil Sherman? So we want to talk to Neil Sherman. We want to introduce him from TagX brands and his businesses, which are integral to helping the transition of businesses and equipment. He sells equipment, and he does lots of things, but restaurantequipment.biz, and I'm excited because not only is the technology of this moment going to be what gets us all through, every business is going to have to reimagine itself, and he's going to play a really pivotal role in helping all restaurateurs at every level become the business of the future. He's in the restaurant business of the future. Our guest, Neil Sherman. How are you, sir? Thank you for coming.
I'm awesome, and I'm usually very, very calm and cool and collected when I speak to iconic people in any industry. But I'm nervous right now. I'm nervous. You set the bar so high. You put a picture up of the guy who's the cover guy, who's like a model out of the Ford model agency, and I'm just glad I'm going before him. Shall we say? I'm just glad I'm going before him.
That reminds me of a story, Neil. One time I was up for this TV host part, right? So they fly me to the Food Network. We go to New York. They put me up overnight. I stay in Brooklyn. The place smells like all crap because the trash cans are all out. It was the middle of the summer. I just wanted to come home to Vegas and leave my air conditioning. I didn't want to walk in the streets of Brooklyn with all the trash cans out and stink. So I get to the place. I'm in my suit. I'm sweating. We like to say schwitzing, Neil. Maybe that'll help you. I walk in and they're like, "Oh, great! You just the guy who was just coming in pre auditioning before me just left. I'm sorry you missed him." I said, "Well, who was it?" And they said, "Todd English." And I said,
my kissing cousin.
I said, Todd English.
You look very much alike, the two of you. Very much alike.
Todd English. I mean, I should grab his picture and plop it up here. The most handsome chef in all the world. And I talk about getting the wind out of your sails. I'm like, I'm leaving.
I can handle it. If you talk about the chaos going on in the restaurant food industry, I am honored to be with both of you, two truly, I say this with all sincerity, iconic people. The publisher of Food and Beverage, James Beard Award winner from the beautiful streets of Tucson. I'm honored to be here. So I appreciate Neil, the opportunity. By the way, I think my mother-in-law had a can of those macaroons when she sold her house after 50 years. It was the same label. I don't think it had been open for some time. Yeah. So,
I wish you were here. I'd put a little bit out on a plate and share them with you.
Would that be Pam's wife, Neil? Pam's
mom, Pam's mother. Yes.
Yeah, see what I'm saying, Jennifer? I told you he'd find a way to get Pam into this conversation every single time. This is what he does.
He's married to a superstar. What are you going to do?
Listen, I was introduced to Neil a while ago by our mutual friend, Matthew, right? Matthew Marsh. And Matt is one of the largest, God, what do you call him? I mean, what do you call it?
He's the largest vending company in Nevada, California. He and his wife are the two of the most amazing people. They're on the trucks now with masks, serving the frontline people.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
Yep. They're an amazing guy.
So he introduces me to Neil. He's like, "I got a friend. I want you to meet. He's got a great business." So I talked to Neil. The next thing you know, we Facebook friend each other because it's true love, right? And then it was like a domino. 40 people, 50 people. Like, how do you know Neil? all of a sudden, all these people that I knew were flying in. Oh, I know his wife. That's what they were all telling me. They don't even know Neil. They just know his wife.
The Martians didn't know
we
me
should
then,
say
you
that Neil is in upstate New York, so it's not like he's also in Las Vegas and you just hadn't crossed paths.
No, and it's all my friends from Maryland where I grew up, right outside of D.C. And it's just, it's adorable.
Look at to meet Jennifer, the chef. I get to meet the chef. This is just an honor. I'm just, I'm humbled. So.
Listen, I'm just a cook. I have to tell you though, but you know what they say? That water seeks its own level, so lucky us. Hey, Neil, let's tell everybody about TagX Brands and what your business is. And let's set that as the stage for you commenting on where our restaurant and hospitality industry is at this moment during the pandemic.
Sure. I appreciate that. But so 35 years ago, I began my career in brand management at General Foods, now Kraft, and it was a great experience, but I wasn't made for the corporate environment nor living in New York, and went off on my own, moved to Maryland, and it was at the time that prepared foods were getting more and more into the supermarkets, but supermarkets didn't know how to handle prepared foods. Many still don't. And so our initial business was kiosks in supermarkets. So we did soup bars for Campbell's and salad bars for Kraft and frozen yogurt and coffee kiosks. And every time we'd show up, the supermarket would say, listen, can you get the papaya juicing machine that we're kicking out of here and get rid of it for us? And I was like, I was indignant about it, Jennifer. I wasn't a Sanford and Son. I was a marketing guy. And they said, listen, marketing guy, get that out of here. And so we started managing surplus equipment as an extra to our clients. And one thing led to another, and we were pretty good at it, and we continued to grow, and we had 35 warehouses around the country, and we started redeploying equipment, and we created this aftermarket, which is kind of the essence of what we do. We started helping people sell surplus equipment when they either remodeled or closed or overbought, and we became a resource for the independent restaurateur on Main Street for discounted equipment. And about 20 years ago, we were running out of space in big cities, and I moved back to the place I said I'd never move back to, which is upstate New York, and we bought an old Army base.
Oh, wow.
Which is 1,000 acres in the middle of the Finger Lakes region, which is beautiful. And it was a distribution center for the Army, and that's from where we operate. And we operate 8 sales channels, and we help make the market more efficient.
And let's just give a couple of those names, because I know you've got restaurant equipment and several different .com and domains. Can you just tell people a few of them just so they can tap when they want to start looking? Yeah,
the main brand, the hub is called TagX Brands, TAGEX brands.com. And the other 2 primary sales channels are a site called restaurantequipment.bid, like an auction, BID, and restaurantequipment.shop, which is a storefront. What started with just used equipment has evolved over the years, and about 70% of it is now new surplus. Surplus that it's, closed locations that didn't operate that well in the world of restaurants, or bought long, or manufacturers or distributors. So, and needless to say, now is a time of incredible chaos in the world.
So Jennifer, let me just
go ahead.
Well, I wanted to say, I love the concept of what Neil does prior to the pandemic, right? Prior to right now, because right now it's going to be kind of sad because there's a lot of people that are going to go out of business because they were just cutting it close to making money, making a living. Realize that they're not going to. When your sales drop that much, so they're going to want to get rid of the equipment they spent a lot of money on. But to put a good light on it, this is why when I wrote my book right here, Food and Beverage Magazine's Guide to Restaurant Success, I actually put Neil in the book because I said this is a great place to go and get your equipment. Right? Go and get your lesson. It's I don't like talking about it now. I don't mind talking about the book now because you can pick it up at Barnes & Noble online or Amazon, and it'll be coming out July 1st. But let me show you that again, Neil, in case you missed the book.
I love it.
Not only can I do that, Neil.
I like that.
I just want to do that too, Neil, just to run that across the bottom. Okay? Barnes & Noble, Amazon. But for what Neil does, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, Jen?
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. You know, let me get rid of that picture. Not that I want to get rid of it because I like looking at it. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
And actually, Jennifer, just so everybody knows, did write an endorsement on the back of the book. I have Jennifer, I have the Food God, I have Shep Gordon, we had David Burke. We had some great writers in the back of that endorsing my book. Go ahead, Neil. I'm sorry. Did I take your thunder?
Well, no. Can I ask him a question? Because I think we're trying to get a snapshot of where we are right now in the industry. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that has to be established is, where were we in the year before the pandemic hit? Because if where we are right now in the West is like the rest of the country, there were lots and lots of successful openings. There were people that opened as recently as a month before the shutdown. So there's a ton of activity that had been taking place from where I sit. And I wanted to find out, was that taking place all over the country, Neil? Were you jobbing up locations opening up over the last year? And were you finding that we were in a golden-ish time?
I think so. It's a great question. I think it's largely a function of where you were. Our market has always been this dynamic aftermarket. And so it's always been serving people that have run their course in their concept, or had the misfortune of not making things work in the marketplace, and helping them through that change, whether it be closing the location, redeploying equipment to other locations, or selling it off and monetizing their equipment assets. Mm-hmm. But the entrepreneurial operator, whether it be one location on Main Street or chains traded on Wall Street, that realized that the capital equipment is a big expense for a restaurant, always realized that if they could bring that cost down, it saved more capital for other culinary marketing people reasons. So you asked about a year ago. So in 2 years ago, I gave a talk at one of the Wall Street conferences for Cowen and Company. Mm-hmm. And I spoke of the over restaurant and retailization of America, from my view, that depending on what you believed in terms of the marketplace, there were 30+% more places to eat than was mouths to feed 3 times a day. And so it was just a question of time before a change occurred. None of us could have envisioned the tragic change of the pandemic and its impact on the industry that the three of us love, the food industry. So a year ago.
Can you restate that for me? Because I think that's maybe one of the most powerful things you're going to say to us all day.
Right. So, and I can share this with you all, and you can certainly put it on Food Beverage. I gave a talk at Cowen and Company, and I said that there were 30% more capacity of restaurant and food service locations for a whole host of reasons. I won't go into a lot of the details, not the least of which is prepared foods now transcends multiple sales channels. It used to be supermarkets were packaged goods, gas stations sold gas, and now really competent convenience stores sell prepared foods. And so it became over time the fight for that. And so we knew that there was too much capacity. It was just a question of time as the economy did well. Lenders were very liberal, and they lent money to operators that probably didn't deserve to be lent money to. And so the mediocre operators were, flailing. You would still see great success stories, but you would also see things that didn't work out so well. Celebrity chefs had a lot of challenges, and everybody thought that fast casual was everything, and it is in some places and not so much in others. But when
Neil,
this hit,
go ahead. I just want to clarify something on that point. Yesterday, we had a guest on, Chef Michelle Ortiz, who's one of the designers at the Wynn Group. And one of the things we kept hearing her say, and everyone acknowledged, was, we just don't eat like that anymore. And I wanted to have you address what that actually means from an operational standpoint and from your standpoint. What does it mean that we don't eat like that anymore regarding white tablecloth fine dining?
So I think a lot of things happened. If you think back 10 years, 12 years ago in 2008, there was a lot of kind of higher end white tablecloth restaurants that just didn't make it because there was a constraint on the business traveler. on the amount of money that they could spend. And what happened over time was maybe in recent years, people were more engaged in eating at home, not to the caliber that we have right now. I mean, some statistics that have occurred, we don't eat like that anymore. I don't know. I'm not although I'm proudly affiliated with the CIA, the culinary tastes are not necessarily my forte with that. It's more the infrastructure of the operations. I will tell you, if you look at some of the statistics now, and what people are saying in metropolitan areas, this is a seismic event, once in a lifetime event for our industry. There's 8 million people out of work. There's 150,000 locations that are closed with no takeout or delivery as part of it. There are people who are in a situation that I think the latest number from the National Restaurant Association was the industry was going to lose $225 billion in these 2 or 3 months. It's a staggering number. But by the same token, there were a lot of operators that probably it wasn't in their wheelhouse to be operating a restaurant or operating a food service operation. Now you talk about challenges and opportunities. As I mentioned, our facility is in the middle of a farm field that was an Army base in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, north of Ithaca, between Rochester, Syracuse, and Ithaca. And there were 3 truckloads of equipment coming in today when I went there, all new equipment from the 27th biggest equipment dealer in America that closed its doors, just shut its doors. So 25 truckloads in total came in from that dealer.
Wow.
Now that's challenging and sad, but it's an opportunity for other people who to value buy, if you will.
You're talking about new equipment from a company that just had to shutter. If you saw the movie The Founder, which was the Ray Kroc McDonald's story, the story starts with Ray Kroc as a salesman, and he literally goes from restaurant to restaurant selling a piece of equipment, a new kind of milkshake maker, and he was trying to get this new technology into the restaurants. I want to ask you about what the state of the art of technology is relative to restaurants, and is there a one playing field, or is it really bifurcated to those efficiency chains and national groups, and then the mom and pops and small restaurant groups, or are basically all restaurants that cook food essentially the same, using the same kinds of stuff?
So one of the things there's a lot of talk of technology in our industry, right? So between ordering apps and infrastructure and kiosks that were driven largely by the challenge of labor in many markets, that's one of the necessary things they went to. So everybody was investing in technology. And so when you break it down, we had a couple of private equity guys on this one panel, and they talked, including the guy who runs the Union Square Hospitality Fund, very seasoned investment banker. And he said, yes, there's great technology that will add efficiencies and everything, but the touch points of cooking are the touch points of cooking, right? In your hometown of Boston, there's a whole automated restaurant that cooks everything, but the touch point of what the two of you bring, your warmth to the food experience, is what other people want, they strive for. In fact, right now, as off the charts as some of the volume is in the supermarket industry, is the contra to what is the demise of the prepared foods industry. Right. But when we return, even the smartest people I know don't know what's going to happen and how quick it's going to be.
You didn't ask me, Neil. You didn't ask me. You never asked me.
Well, that's why I'm here right now. That's really that's my. It's the Trojan horse of my.
Well, yeah, but Michael, I just want to reframe that concept for everybody so that we're all on the same page in this conversation, and it's really a kind of simple one. We're in a high-touch industry in a no-touch world. How do you reconcile going from a high-touch in a high-touch world to a high-touch industry in a no-touch world? That's where the real conundrum is, giving people this moment of pause. And so we're reaching out to everyone to say, where do we go from here? Not merely to get, as they say in restaurants, get the butts in the seats. Let me cook for people. This is a whole different shift. It's not just turning a light switch on and opening back up. There's way more to this story than people can fully appreciate. And diving deep as we are with Neil means we can ask Neil about how people are operating and how literally successful operations are going to have to change even the most fundamental touch points of their business with their grills and their griddles and their fryers and their customer service. Right,
because anyway, you're going to need to touch that. And I just got one of those new Brava machines. Have you seen those, Neil? The Brava?
I have not.
No.
The Brava cooking machines. It cooks everything. It's not commercial grade. It's all like for home use. It's the coolest thing, but it keeps it simple. And when I was on the phone discussing with them, and we'll have them on, Jennifer, at one point, I said to them, you guys should go to the supermarkets, go to these and have meals prepared that you just place on your Brava tray, 1, 2, 3. You have the code, you put it in, and it cooks everything from the broccoli to the salmon to the meat, anything you have on those trays, it cooks it with a code. You put it in, pull it out. So they may have to be going to a lot of that stuff. I mean, the word pivot everyone's been using, it's sort of been, it's like disruptive was such a huge word over the last 12 months. Now all the restaurants we've got to pivot to this.
Yeah,
pivot may not be the answer.
No, pivot means staying on the same plane. You can't just pivot. You're going to have to climb up or climb down before you climb back up. There's going to be some lateral movement as well as that horizontal. Vertical's got to happen somewhere in this mix. It's not just side to side or turn around.
But I also believe that this time is going to allow, and Neil, you can comment on this. What's happening now is going to allow for second, third generation restaurant turnovers, right? You're going to have people with the people that have saved up and they want to get in the restaurant business and they think they can still do it. Like if you have the drive and that bug in you to become the restaurateur, entrepreneur, you're going to do it. One way or the other, you're going to say, I know a better way. I know a better way. So then the thing is they got to go to guys like Neil to get that equipment. That's the bottom line, right? So let's say somebody in Texas wants equipment from you, Neil. You just ship it? How's that work?
It's amazing you say that because when you were talking about this high touch conundrum, Jennifer, that it is so, you just articulated that so brilliantly. Not surprised, by the way. But the fact is that when you go into a restaurant, you want to, the host or hostess, you hug the waiter, you say hello to the chef, the owner, etc. So we have a facility. We've always been national. We deployed a facility in Texas, coincidentally, about 3 years ago in Dallas. It is by far the biggest hub that we have. We ship equipment. People can pick up equipment, but Texas is big. I'll give you one data point. I talked to a CFO of a chain in Austin today, based in Austin. So they opened up this week. So the rules of opening up is they can only occupy 25% of the tables. And each bar has to have 1 to 2 seats between it. Now, if you don't, that's the ultimate illustration of the conundrum you discussed. Because if the three of us want to go out and have a drink or whatever, coffee, we don't want to sit 3 seats apart at a bar. And do you want to go to a restaurant that's so sparsely laid out that only 25% are there? I think that there's a lot of consumer habits that have to change. And I'm concerned about it for the industry, not just yes, our business we've not seen this much activity. The traffic on our sites, we get 1 million views a month on our sites leading up to this pandemic. It's up 4-fold right now.
Wow.
And so
now you're getting 4 million? 4 million, Neil?
Views on in-market basis. So
that's
the
cute.
last
that's a cute
online
number,
No, I know that because I know you have over 10 million, right?
I'm just kidding.
You're as my father would say, you're the big league of that stuff.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just honored to be in your presence there, Michael.
What was that?
But the fact is that I'd ask these people when they came and picked it up or they called, I would ask them, what are you doing? They said, well, we're going to be in this business. To your point, Michael, they got the bug. They're not leaving the food industry. They're staying in it. And they say, I need a flat top, I need a turbo chef, I need a grill, I need a refrigerator. And I'm going to take advantage of the dynamic market. And so it's end users. And it's some consumers who want to be the next Chef Jen in their house and they want to buy something commercial. and it's an amazing opportunity for people. Yes, it's a challenge,
Neil,
but people have to think differently.
Neil, I want to ask you, do you foresee a future in which a restaurant is going to begin to behave more like a food production facility, almost like a, I'm going to call it a manufactory, where the processes are locked down, tightened up, controlled, quote unquote, cleaned up somehow? Do you see that happening so that it's much more commercialized versus artisan?
Yeah. So in the last 4 weeks, I've talked to 7 different companies that have sizable investment in the ghost or cloud kitchen world, right? So they're basically investing way more money than they should. They're looking to save money on the equipment. Hence, we're talking to them.
And tell people what that term means.
Sure. So it's basically a operation, a commissary operation that operates with no front of the house. So if you call to order or delivered to you from a given restaurant, it basically is produced in a commissary. The exciting part for many people are that it can house multiple brands all at the same time. The most I've heard is 18 brands in that operation. And they either can produce it for you or they kind of rent it out like a stall, like a food hall. And it takes the overhead. It was initially pioneered as a great test market opportunity that you could test your brand in a market without taking expensive retail in big cities like Chicago, Boston, New York.
Or a dirty truck.
Or a dirty truck. That's the other thing. And when you talk about, when you go into, I was talking to a guy, a finance guy, who said, after this thing, if I walk into a restaurant, I don't care if it's a chain or anything else, and it's not clean, or it's not been spruced up, or doesn't look attractive to me, I'm out. I'm not even going to stop there. Whereas historically I might have. Many of the casual dining, there's a lot of chains right now that are in a purgatory of where to end up on this. You talk about this tight controlled thing like the Brava machine that Michael, I guess it's just a high-end consumer thing that I would not be able to play in that Michael has. But it's this controlled environment that they're going to do. But I do see it more of a production piece. So.
And do you see it in bars as well as restaurants?
Yeah, bar food is a big thing. Go have dinner at the bar, and I think the challenge is, what do you do with that closeness piece? And there probably 2 operators told me today that until there's something to solve this, a vaccine that's pretty reliable in the percentage of things, our food industry and many other industries for that matter are very challenged.
Neil, I want to ask you, as somebody who cooks, and I know, Michael, you cook a bit too, one of the things that oftentimes will happen, and the benefit of being a regular at a place, is that the food has become reliably, consistently irresistible. And there are places that you go that have been around 20, 30, 50, 80, even 100 years. Here in Tucson, Arizona, the Flores family has been operating the El Charro restaurant and group of restaurants for, I think, 98, almost 100 years. And when you've been around that long, you have features that make your food taste the way it tastes. And some people will say that there are great diners, let's say, in different parts of the country where their flat top makes the best burger you'll ever have. And it's the seasoning from the 40 years of burgers that makes it taste that way. How much of an important part of the new narrative and the reinvention of our hospitality world are some of these iconic flavor pieces going to be, or do you not buy into that? Do you think it's all about the hand of the maker and not necessarily about stuff that is as maybe imperfect to science as the old seasoned grill? Sure.
So I think the seasoned pan, my wife bought an skillet, today.
Cast iron.
It was seasoned. Yeah, cast iron. It was seasoned. She thought it was dirty, but it was really seasoned. So I think it's important. I think it's the important touch, but I think it all comes down to the chef, the cook, the person putting it together, and the ingredients and the quality of those ingredients. Equipment is equipment. I will say that some of the more reliable, stalwart pieces of the kitchen, the Hobart mixer, the Middleby oven, those types of things, those companies have historically said the biggest competition a Hobart mixer has is a 25-year-old Hobart mixer because they never die. And so I don't think it's the equipment. There's been very few revolutionary pieces of equipment in we're not a new equipment dealer or designer. We have a lot of clients that get stuck with equipment that we like to help them with. But basically, it's not something that we deal in. And I think it's pretty, interchangeable, if you will.
Neil, is the biggest threat to the restaurant industry going to be the grocery industry? Do you think more consumers are going to be getting their food and food deliveries from grocery stores, including prepared meals? Because it's so hard to imagine a restaurant that was already operating on a 3 or 5% margin, losing half the seats for half the covers, being able to stay competitive when you've got a grocery store who what is the grocery store going to lose when all they do is they increase their distribution with customers? What's going to end up happening there?
So right now, the grocery industry is off the charts, right? So many of the food service distributors have changed their physical operations to distribute to grocery stores because they can't keep up with the demand. Some divisions of some grocery stores have doubled their volume versus the same period, March and April a year ago. It's unreal to see that. Conversely, the traditional restaurant industry has declined. I think that more and more the supermarket chains, we're fortunate to have Wegmans in our hometown of Rochester, New York. That's a very strong operator. Their prepared foods are, second to none. During this period, they've done away with the open prepared foods and they've gone to prepackaged prepared foods. But I think it's going to continue to be competitive, very competitive for the restaurant operator. It has to be experiential.
Yeah.
So
it does. And that's one of the unknown factors. Neil, when I was a very young person, there was a grocery guy who ran a company and his name was Jimmy Bildner. His family owned a grocery chain and he spun off and he became what was infamously known as the yuppie grocer. And in Time magazine during that yuppie era, he made the cover of Time magazine because he was bringing J. Bildner and Sons grocery stores. They got capital from a hedge fund. They expanded wildly into places like Alabama. And there were many ill-conceived placements, and he ended up going too far too fast, and it imploded along with the economic period of the late 1980s, 1990s. So I was there on the team that was selling off all of his fantastic equipment from his German gondolas and deli cases at literally when they were lucky 10 cents on the dollar. And I learned more about how to run a business and how not to run a business from that experience. You, my friend, take the best parts of that and say, if you're opening something up or growing or doing or changing, have I got the gear for you? Talk a little bit about what it is that TagX and restaurantbusiness.bid does.
Restaurantequipment.bid. So we basically, on the one hand, deal with people that are in change. So they're closing locations, they're remodeling locations, they're sitting on too much inventory, and we basically help them deal with those headaches. So we go out and do what you did in this particular engagement, and we help close the facilities physically. We pull the equipment out and redeploy it to another one of their locations. We'll hold on to it, and then we'll sell it in the aftermarket. And that aftermarket creates this opportunity for other people growing. So we're national. We're in 100% of the U.S. and Canada. We don't discriminate based on size, never have. So we'll deal with one location or an entire chain. We obviously are biased in the fact that we think that operators can reduce their cost of capital equipment. And so
our audience now has a friend in the business. Thank you, Neil.
There you go. I'm honored. Thank you both very much.
Neil, you are a gift from heaven. And do you know Gene Sherry? Do you know Gene? He was commenting like a maniac.
I saw that. I know Eugene Sherry incredibly well.
You do, as do I for probably 30-something years.
Really?
And then I see here that
fun.
he said, "What's up, food dudes?" Eugene Sherry.
Yeah, I love
And
Eugene Sherry.
look at this little sexy mama, huh? Brenda Brody.
Yeah,
I've known
beautiful.
her. I'm going to say, I don't want to say her age, but I've known her 50 years, maybe 54 years, maybe 54 years.
That would be way before she was even a twinkle in her mother's eye.
Right.
But I'm sure your numbers aren't that good. You can't be as
No, they're not
and
good.
good looking as you are with that and be a numbers guy.
Right. All right. We love you, Neil. We're bringing on our next guest.
Thank
You're
you
the
both.
best. Thanks,
right,
buddy.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Neil.
All right, Jennifer. Now we have.
You got to show the cover first because we are very proud of this.
Wait, hold on 1 second because Shelby, he can stay here, honey.
No, he's gonna.
We've got a hullabaloo going on.
You wouldn't believe what's going on. I had to order a tres leche birthday cake for Shelby, whose 22nd birthday is tomorrow. I'm babysitting the 3-year-old. Instacart was supposed to surprise deliver everything. I was going to stick the tres leche cake in the garage refrigerator, right? I get a call from the guard gate, because I have to live in a guard gated community because people are after me. Jennifer, they're after me. And they wouldn't let the Instacart guy in because he doesn't have a driver's license. So now she has to go while we're doing this to pick up her own cake out of the guy's car. She better wear a mask. She'll be fine.
I need you to show our latest cover.
All right,
and
here
our
he
cover
is.
Story.
Look at this guy, huh?
Leave that on.
Let me
take
this thing off. Let me take this thing. Okay, yeah, you can see him, all right? All right, there we go. Leave it on. Soak it in. What do you mean? Where is he, Garrett? Where are you, buddy? All right, you like that? I'm going to bring him in. This is our May 2020 cover boy. He's got an amazing.
It looks like David Beckham, but he's more handsome.
Well, I don't know about that. He's got an amazing story. He's got an amazing concept. Let's get him on. Where is he? Hold on a minute. Let me add him to the stream. He should be with us. I don't see him.Hold on a minute. What? That's not working. He was just there.
Well, we got to unmute his camera.
Oh no, he's going to be mortified now because he gets embarrassed. He's going to be mortified.
Listen, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. He makes an extraordinary product, but what's more interesting is how this man, mark my words, we are looking forward into the hospitality industry, the bar industry, the consumer packaged goods industry, the brand, super premium spirits industries. We're looking in all these areas, and with this product, our next guest has literally reinvented, innovated, and reimagined consumer brands and high quality, super premium spirits brands and distribution and ownership. I mean, the whole thing is just such a novel, incredible idea.
It's unbelievable.
And I've never seen or heard of anything like this.
Up here, okay?
I know. I'm very excited.
And I take over the whole screen. And then I put, he's logging back in. And I put this up. Am I more handsome? Does that make me more handsome?
No. You are.
Look, I could be, maybe that's really me. This could be me for the next, should I just do the show like this?
That's funny.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I mean, all right, I don't know. Maybe this is me. Maybe I'm Garrett Green. I'm the creator of One Rock. Hold on. What do you think? What? Oh my God.
There he is.
He busted me.
There he is.
Jeez, I got busted on that one.
Put him in the middle. He's our guest of honor.
Put him in the middle. Kind of a wacky conversation.
There we go.
What do you mean?
Hey, Garrett, how are you?
Let's go back to here. He's too handsome not to be right up on. Go ahead.
All right, so we've got the founder.
Wait, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Let's emasculate him.
No, stop it. Don't. He's got his microphone muted. We're going to unmute the microphone. We'll be able to hear him.
Hold on a minute.
We'll keep working on it.
Yeah.
But I want to say, Michael, one of the things that every week, every episode that we have, we are looking at where we're at and where we're going. I mean, it's really important to remind everybody that where we are is all together and where we're going is all together. And because we've got friends in the business who are going to tell us where they're thinking we're going, it's the next best thing to having a crystal ball. I know a lot of people, Michael, are talking about opening up this week. In fact, we had guests that we had lined up for later in this week and early next week who were saying we've got to push back because we're opening on Friday, we're opening on Monday of this weekend next. I think it's premature. I've had a lot of experts that I've researched with, interviewed, and spoken with say it's premature. What are you hearing?
I think it's premature, and I think a lot of people are out there. I don't know what they're thinking. They want to bring their staffs in so they can spend all the money they have for nothing.
Well, they want to train. I don't know. I mean, they want to get ready. How do you have to get ready? You got to take out half your seats, or I just don't understand. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, there's a whole thing that came out from this that I saw from the. Let me put us on and let him.
I just want to make sure we get Garrett, because I've had the most extraordinary interviews. He's been on the other
Garrett. No, but I just saw your mute button on.
Yep.
What is he plugged in? Maybe he unplugs. Can you unplug and use this on speakerphone?
Yeah.
Gary, whatever you just did, hold on. We're on mute right now. So find the mute button and unmute it. Oh, wow.
Take the can you take your headphone out?
Yeah, can you take the headphone out
and then just put it on speaker? Yeah, just put us on speaker.
I wonder why it's not working.
Yeah, let's try and get him on speakerphone.
What if I just get him on the phone? Oh, yeah. Look. Oh, he's got 1 second. All right, I'm going to give you 1 second. All right, he'll get it. Look, the guy created this sickening concept in alcohol. So, I mean, he'll get it. You want to talk about it a minute and see what's...
Yeah, so the gist of it is a really simple, beautiful concept. In the last 5 years, we've seen a lot of celebrated names get involved in consumer brands because they knew that the real value was in the ownership. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there was even a movie where Bill Murray played a world-famous actor who was hired by a whiskey company to go to Japan and for $1 million make a commercial that he drank a certain brand of whiskey. That used to be the relationship between spirits brands and celebrated names.
Oh, was that what that movie was about? I know what you're talking about.
Lost in Translation. And so,
I didn't realize that.
The idea, but then Paul Newman was the first celebrated name that got involved with the ownership piece of making a product. There you go. I hear something. There's my friend.
Test.
There we are.
Good audio?
Yep. We'll tone it down just a little bit. We're a little bit hot, but we're going to be great. So Paul Newman was the first celebrated name to get involved in the ownership and really parlay and leverage his celebrated status in the consumer brands area. Our next guest, Garrett Green, has a history and background in consumer packaged goods and brands. And he observed that in the last number of years, celebrated names had an ownership interest in some of these super premium spirits, brands like, easily George Clooney's Casamigos. But we're going to turn it over to Garrett Green, and we're going to talk a little bit about his One Rock Vodka and how you are not just a consumer, but you literally become an owner. And it's a really key new model that I think is going to parlay across all categories of consumer products. Garrett Green, welcome. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing so well. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
It's cool. We're glad you could come and be with us. First of all, you are our cover subject for the May cover.
Whoa. I'll tell you what. I got to tell you, being quarantined in North County, no matter where you are, I can't tell you the number of photographers that we had to call to actually finally find one and coerce them to not open up their studio because we got none of those. We actually had to coerce them over to my living quarters, which is an apartment up in North County, San Diego right now. And we transformed our apartment to create these wonderful shots that we collaborated with Food and Beverage on. And
there's more inside. There's more inside the issue. You can find it right online. But I want to talk about the story. I want Jennifer to really talk about it deliciously, as she always does, and understandably. Because you and I, Garrett, talked about it, and we know about the business and how things worked. And I think Jennifer can sort of translate that to everyone now to really comprehend from a different
I'm going to just
angle.
give the first sentence. I'm going to give the headline, which is that in all the conversations and interviews I did with Garrett Green, it became immediately clear to me that they were not interviews so much as they were fascinating TED Talks about the future of not only super premium spirits, but of consumer brands and branding, and how the notion of ownership in a brand, the new format and the new template for distribution and product distribution and growth was one that was completely reimagined and innovated and re-engineered by Garrett Green and One Rock Club. It's starting with one product, this extraordinary super premium American vodka, but I think he really has done something that will look back on and say this truly changed the industry, not unlike everything being in this period of flux and change right now. The fact that we're in pandemic is going to transform our world, and it makes Garrett Green look even more like the prescient crystal ball reader that I believe and got to know that he is. So I'm thrilled that everyone's going to get a chance to read just a tiny bit about it, but I hope that people will become really curious about who this guy is and what this company's all about. Garrett, thanks for being so generous with your time and for coming and being our subject this month.
I'm most welcome. So happy to be here.
Talk a little bit about consumer products and consumer products brands in the super premium industry and how One Rock was born.
Well, there were, it's a two-part dance, I think, with One Rock in particular. As we've talked about in the past, Jennifer, I come from 15 years of brand development, product development, brand strategy, and consumer goods investments. And that sort of discipline has a process to it. Discovery, investment, trial, analysis, and then deciding after all of that whether or not something is worth your time to pursue it further with a follow-on investment and redevelopment, and tightening of the strategy, if you will. Vodka, in my opinion, is one of the most difficult consumer goods products to succeed in anywhere on earth because of its commodity nature and its trend and culture-driven nature. This is not an industry where you can just decide to go in and be successful. There is a degree of timing. There's a degree of luck. There's a degree of finesse. If we look collectively at the last 10 to 12 brands who have made it in this category over the span of 50 or 60 years, you will inevitably uncover a pattern of timing that made these brands relevant during the particular times that they did.
And Garrett, I just want to interrupt 1 second and say that one of the most important points that you could possibly make is one you just did, and I really want to shine a light on it. And that's to say that in the world of consumer products branding, to have a product that is intrinsically considered a commodity is the exact opposite of what a brand would be. Brands and commodities are the opposite mirror images of one another.
That's right.
Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
right.
So you can't be a commodity and then simultaneously be branded. So what had to shift?
Well, I think what had to shift is the realization that in certainly the last 3 to 5, maybe 6 years, commodity brands, even though they're not supposed to exist on paper, have become wildly popular with millennials and the large majority of the consuming market out there, because they're driven, the successful ones, by stories, by ethics, by value systems, by little windows into the culture of these things, and they transcend them from commodity to brand through those strategies, through those aspects.
Do you have an example you can share with us?
Let's see. Well, let's stay in our lane with vodka. Tito's.
Yeah.
Okay. Tito's by far the preeminent vodka brand in the world right now.
And if I'm not mistaken, they are still the best-selling spirits brand in the United States.
In the United States, they've surpassed Smirnoff in volume just the past couple of years. This is not only a little success story, but a historical one, right?
It's massive.
Massive. But Tito's really is a commodity. It sells vodka. Vodka arguably has the smallest differentiation from one recipe to the next. It's
by virtue of its technical definition of an odorless, colorless, tasteless spirit.
That's right. That's right. But Tito's, for example, somehow figured out, and I would argue by accident, how to make their brand relevant with an initial core adopting group of people. At the time, we could define those as hipsters in the early 2000s. Coupled with the hipsters was a natural rise in nationalism post-war, post-recession and recovery. And these two people at the same time saw Tito's as representing their ideologies, their newfound ideologies, through things like not a fancy dressed up label as we're accustomed to seeing in the category for so many years, but instead a paper label and from a destination, mind you, that's arguably the most iconic American state in the country.
Right.
All right. So that's just a taste of some of the things that that aligned for that brand, that started to give it momentum and relevance, and eventually a story that people would come to latch onto and perpetuate.
Garrett, how do you start with a product that has such ubiquity and innovatively come up with such a powerful paradigm shifting concept as the One Rock Club ownership? Will you talk about what One Rock Club is and how that, maybe even more than the vodka itself, is the brand story here?
Yeah. Well, when we talk about vodka and commodities, commodities really don't do anything for people. And so you have to create something around that product that gives that consumer something tangible, something different to latch onto, that is distinguishably different from every other brand that they have interfaced with in that category. So we looked at the vodka category and said, look, this is a group of players that are all using the same tactics and the same strategies and frankly the same stories to try and generate interest and attention for themselves from the consumer. And we looked at that and said, and by the way, if you open up that story and you open up those features, it's inherently, or intrinsically rather, conveying to the consumer that if you buy me,
right,
you become special. You acquire status in society, even implied financial status. Well, hold on a second.
Right.
That is quite a misleading idea because, Jennifer, you and I know, and the business community knows, and invariably more and more consumers are discovering and realizing the only true benefits when we talk about the consumption of products and brands, the only true privileges, or arguably the most genuine form, the most opportunistic form, are those benefits and privileges enjoyed by the owners.
And I'll call those
brands.
the legacy benefits. Those are the legacy benefits. They're not the immediate benefits of a good tasting product or the conviviality that might stimulate. When we talk about this category of benefits, we're talking about legacy benefits. And they're more than financial, although finance is a big piece of it. But there's more to it than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely is. And but at our core, we believe that if you're the most powerful component
right,
in the relationship between a brand and a company, the consumer, you deserve more.
Right.
Recognize your power. Align yourself with brands that treat you with that respect, that provide you features and benefits that the competitors don't, and ask the question why they don't, and dwell on it, and then discover One Rock. and uncover the reasons why we do what we do, and then go and explore the additional cursory benefits that we've designed that make the experience of the brand unlike anything else that's in the market or has ever been introduced.
And Garrett, this sounds really expensive. In fact, you've made this really accessible. Will you talk a little bit about how sort of accessible this entry point is to this club?
It looks more. We call this an exclusive, inclusive experience. This looks high-end, fancy, and it should only belong to a certain group of people or consumers, perhaps. But if you look closely, we have a very welcoming pricing structure that allows the most average of consumers to join and participate in this experience that we have as part of the platform. The entry level, for example, is $100. $100 grants you access to the club. You become an owner in the company, and in that essence, the brand, and then you enjoy the privileges that come with that ownership. And do
I get that when I buy one bottle, or do I have to buy shares? How does that work?
So when this is a invest to join model, or a join to invest. When you place your investment, you in essence join the club. You become a member of the One Rock Club and a shareholder, a real shareholder in the company, which of course owns the rights to the intellectual property and the means of production. You become part of the real deal. To tag on,
and I want to say, this is different than just going to the stock exchange and buying shares of any of the publicly traded spirits.
Well, let's give an example, Jen. Diageo.
Like Diageo, yeah.
There you go.
This is different. This basically centers on a brand new set of securities laws that went into effect no more than 2.5 years ago that allow companies, namely private companies, to offer shares direct to the public without the requirement of a Wall Street broker, for example. So that means you're not only buying the share, but you're buying the share direct from the company. And due to the stage of the company, you're buying at the earliest possible stages of the company's life cycle. In essence, you're buying our stock at wholesale versus retail, which is what the stock market is in Wall Street.
And so literally, the upside for me is now greater.
The upside is substantially greater. You could argue, we have sort of mantras, you could say, in the company, and that underscore some of our philosophies and beliefs about the financial system and the economic order at large. But one of the true methods or formulas to wealth creation is owning companies at the earliest possible stages of their lifestyle, specifically unique companies with a large degree of potential upside, right?
Because the life cycle of companies is one where if you are an early adopter, there's a likelihood that you will be rewarded for having taken the risk that it could have gone either way.
Absolutely. And this privilege, the privilege of investing at the earliest stage in a private company, is one that was reserved legally for only the wealthiest classes of Americans for the last 90 years in this country. That's a substantial thing. And if you ask the guys, the Wall Street guys or the SEC people, right, they would tell you that this was in place to protect the average consumer. Today, but our vantage point is different. Go ahead.
But if you knew somebody who was an investment banker, you had to have that inside track to that profit center.
You had to have the inside track. You need to have assets in the bank to play. It's all
be a qualified investor.
All part of a club. All part of a club. That club of what we could say accelerated wealth creation is now available to the average American investor in a way that's revolutionizing not just consumer goods with One Rock, but also the financial market as well.
Garrett Green and One Rock Vodka on the cover this month of Food and Beverage Magazine. be sure and check it out. If you are not currently a subscriber to Food and Beverage Magazine, Michael Politz, let's tell everybody where they can go to become a subscriber.
Well, you can go to you can go to fbmagazine.com or fb101.com, and you're able to click on the Digizine link is there on the right-hand side if you look at the website. But we also have all the articles updated probably hourly. We have right now over 19,000 people reading an hour. Looking for all the information from us and from Jennifer and her team of writers. I think, when I saw what Garrett did when we met, I couldn't believe I had some involvement in this regulation stuff for restaurants a few years ago. And the guy never pulled through. And then when Garrett told me what he was doing, I was like, oh, I know all about it. This is an amazing concept. It was an amazing concept that somebody could take that step forward. But those are the kind of things that I want to bring out right now, right? Like, there's going to be a lot of wacky stuff with this pandemic. There's going to be a lot of restaurants closing, a lot of things happening that we're not used to, right? And then what can we do? I sometimes I defer to my friends, like my friend Chris Loudon, who happens to be popping up right now with a what's up. Chris owns a place called Stoney's Rockin' Country right here in Vegas, and he has radio stations and he manages country artists all over the world. So we're going to have One Rock available at Stoney's, Garrett. I think we talked about that.
Love that.
But guys like Chris, it's like, he owns a bar. So it's like, and he owns a bunch of bars. And he came from the world of what's the best way to say? Hospitality, but more like casinos. His parents were in the casino business.
Yep.
So he's had a little bit levels of all types of things. So he's seen it all, but he has never seen this. And you know what? It might be good to have Chris. Chris, we would love to have you on the show, buddy. We would love to have you on the show.
Yes, please.
So we would like to get Chris here. Chris, if you want to come on today, that's fine. If you want to come on Friday, that's fine too. Look at this. We got people popping in. They love Stoney's. It's a great place.
It's an institution.
It is an institution.
But here's the thing, Michael. When you have a place that is so pivotally a part of a community that does the things that are the transformative things that are shifting the way the world's doing business, the way that we're coming together and gathering as people, these are the folks who are going to help us reimagine where we all go next. The innovators.
Well, that's what it is. And that's why I thought this was so important for Garrett, because it's an innovative idea, right? The way he's doing it is innovative. It's bringing people. When I was with the Ciroc team, when we launched Ciroc, to maneuver and manipulate and to navigate the waters of getting things moving and getting new brands in, without the Diageo money behind it, that would have been a problem, right? Garrett has a point of entry here that not only allows for automatic sales. If I had a liquor store, in a certain area, he has, I don't want to say members, other owners in that area that he could say, oh, by the way, now you can get your product, not the product you like, your product over at Michael Politz's liquor store on 9th and 12th or whatever the street is.
Right.
Wondering if we can maybe open that up for a minute to help the audience appreciate some of the processes and mechanics kind of driving the platform and the model. We talked a lot about kind of the high level cultural stuff, trends, and the legal framework. But let's just get to brass tacks as to why this is so effective for us, why we have the traction we do, why people are coming into this thing, why we have an oversubscription of members chomping at the bit to get into our reopening, which is coming in a couple weeks. That's the reopening of the club. We do these in tranches. So this is basically purely a digital-driven model, web-enabled. We are firing advertisements 24/7, which invite people to discover One Rock, click through the funnel, land on our website, and discover the brand and the experience and opportunity that we're offering with One Rock. and in that process, creating an identity and a highly differentiated value proposition for the brand. So,
but aren't they creating their own identity, Garrett? Are they really?
Oh, absolutely. This is the ultimate This is the ultimate compliment to one's connoisseurship, food and beverage standards, however you like to describe it. Because for the first time, a consumer now doesn't have to pretend to acquire something when they don't. Now they are. Now they're owners, and they're the masters of their domain.
So how does that work in terms of, all right, when can they buy in? When can that happen?
So the club opens and closes, and it's primarily designed to be open for majority of the time. We just concluded our first offering, which closed in March. We enrolled 2,700 members around the world. A large majority of those are U.S. Consumer members, member owners, if we want to use co-op language. We're only allowed us to bring in a certain amount of investment revenues per 12-month rolling period. Once we hit 1.07, we have to close the club. We have to file with the SEC, and then we have to refile with the SEC for a subsequent offering to reopen the club and continue growing membership. And that's what's happening.
When is that happening? When is the new membership available?
New membership is going to be coming live here, if all stays on time, in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Huh.
And we have a lot of very exciting announcements coming that we've been holding off on sharing until the offering is up and live. And so,
are any of those announcements in Food and Beverage Magazine right now this month?
There are a couple alluding to those updates, alluding to those announcements towards the latter half of the article.
But we had to be discreet because you don't want to spoil the ending.
We don't want to spoil the ending, and some of those partnerships, for example, are in the final stages of commensurating as we speak, as well. So that's important to know.
Jennifer, would you ask Garrett your favorite question? Do you need me to do it for you?
Yes.
Garrett, what does conviviality mean to you?
Conviviality. I think that's the ultimate. Word to describe the feeling of community, collaboration, togetherness, connection through mediums that transcend material.
And Jennifer likes that medium to be alcohol. She thinks that it produces great conviviality amongst people.
You know what it does? Actually, the table in the kitchen with the chairs around it. I believe conviviality is the joy of sharing, breaking bread together, clinking glasses together. It's not just having the social lubricant of spirited beverages. True conviviality can be experienced in any part of our world and our culture. I used to be the hot lunch lady at my son's school, and we created conviviality with kindergartners. I mean, anybody can make conviviality. It is the sheer joy of experiencing and sharing a moment in food and drink together.
Yeah, it's the ultimate connection, and that feeling is completely amplified right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm very excited, and I told my family last week when we did our weekly Zoom meeting, I'm blessed. I feel very fortunate right now, and I want all of our members to feel the same way. We are in one of the few industries out there, with exception, that is poised to burrow through some of these difficulties right now. Alcohol sales are up, for a second OND type levels of sales, even though
October, November, December. Let's tell everyone what that.
Yeah, October, November, December, where 65% of the annual sales take place. We're having right now basically a second OND period. But that's with the exception that the on-premise is non-existent. But hopefully shortly getting back opened in the next few months.
But what we
We'll
were
see.
reminded
We'll see.
of, Michael, is that home sweet home is our favorite watering hole.
That's true. I have no problem with what's happening now. I think that it's a wonderful experience that everybody should. I understand it's financially taxing, but I think in the end, it's a wonderful experience that I think that you will miss because it's the only time in our lifetime and probably our kids' lifetime that we'll be able to savor this and cherish this.
Because we're together with our kids.
Well, we're together with each other, right? Like, look how much time we got to spend together, Jennifer. You know, it's going to be a sad day when you're out there flaunting your James Beard Award again somewhere out there in the world.
Because I'm just that way.
When I'm out on tour, my book tour at the end of the summer, it's going to be, flaunting my book again. Food and Beverage Magazine's Guide to Restaurant Success, available.
And we're all going to be pouring this for our friends and our new business associates and club members at One Rock Club.
Yeah, we want Garrett back on again, don't we? I mean, look at this face. Let's look at that face. Is that the same guy?
Yeah, well, you guys did a wonderful job. I'm so happy you guys took interest in this and what we're doing. And we think our model and the brand is going to allow retailers to become much more effective and efficient operators because they no longer have to roll the dice with a new brand. Because, for example, One Rock walks into their stores on day one with a Rolodex of customers.
And no one gets that, Garrett. They don't understand that, dude. You know how many times I've talked to people about it. You and I have had this conversation over and over again. I'm like, if I could carry one thing, if I said there's 300 people that want this pen, I would take this pen and sell it all day long. But for some reason, politics, whatever it is, it's like, why would a liquor store not want? Why would? And you know what? Now we're going to show them that they have to. And now, given that, and I believe you and I have talked about this privately, Garrett, and you too, Jennifer, that people can be successful because they have lots of money coming in the door and they don't realize where all the holes are and what they're losing and what they're missing out on. Now they do, because all that money's not coming out the door, right? Now they see where the dam is and they need to push it up and put their bubble gum in it and the hemorrhaging. So when a brand like Garrett Green's comes along, right, when a brand like that, with a face like that.
One Rock, babe.
Is that Charlton Heston? Damn you to hell! Damn you to hell!
Honestly, though, he does look like a young Burt Lancaster or a more handsome David Beckham.
No, I think Burt Lancaster.
Oh, I'm flattered.
I think he does look like like young Burt Lancaster.
Do you? I see a little bit. I see a little Jerry Lewis.
I'm sorry, Garrett. We're embarrassing you.
I gotta learn how to sing, so I can give you the Jerry Lewis.
I love that.
I'm working on that right now.
Good. He's working on a C. See, he's got time.
I've had a lot of time over here. I'm going to start singing.
He's got time, right? I mean,
Garrett,
that definitely is the blue steel.
I'm really proud of you, and I'm really grateful for the privilege of getting to climb on board and help tell this story.
Did you notice I changed the background for us, Jennifer?
Yes.
I did that because I felt that it's deserving right now. It's the time. It's like,
I know, right?
Look at that with that background, huh?
Yeah.
Look at that with that background. It's like
it pops, baby.
Woo! Good God, man! Good God! Damn you to hell! All right.
You'd think he's been drinking vodka this afternoon. In fact, he has not.
I love it. It's just the natural spirit of Michael Politz.
And honestly, Michael, one of the things I keep going back to Garrett, and he and I are incubating this. We're marinating in the idea. We're kind of trying to free our minds and spirits because One Rock vodka needs to have a house toast so that wherever you are in the world and you're clinking glasses with someone with the product that you own, what is that toast going to be? Because I think the tradition and custom of toasting is a critically important one.
Like Das Vidanya.
Well, and it becomes your legacy. It's part of the legacy.
What's your legacy, Garrett? Let's do it now. Let's make up our toast.
I think it's to ownership over your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs, and of course your spirit. Owning who you are, owning what you believe, owning your dignity, and owning your future in a way that.
I'm going to raise my glass and say.
Raise your glass. I'm going to raise my glass.
I'm going to take the bottle out here.
And I'm going to say,
of course,
own it.
I don't know if we can drink on camera, but here
Absolutely.
You go. Cheers.
Have what you want. Own it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
But you know what else I want them to own, Garrett? I want everyone to own one of these. Food and Beverage Magazine Guide to Restaurant Success.
And I want everyone to own one of these and then pull them out and serve them to me when I come visit.
Oh, God. All right, Garrett. Thank you, buddy. We will have you back on. We want to hear the updates. As soon as you go live with the new offering, we'll come up and maybe we'll be able to even have some comments and people with questions. Oh, wait. We got somebody here. Let's see. Can't wait to learn more about Garrett's creation. Happy I dropped in. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Jill.
Thanks, Jill. Jill's adorable. Jill is very, very powerful over at Caesars Entertainment and takes me to the most fabulous lunches. We actually, and we go, you know where we go, Jennifer?
I got to ask you, is my favorite place of all time, is Payard still there?
No, it's not, I don't think. Maybe, I don't know. We go to Gordon Ramsay's.
Is Payard still there? They make the best almond croissant I've ever had in my whole life.
Oh, I love the way you said croissant. That's so convivial. But here's the thing. I go to Gordon Ramsay's with Jill, and I don't order the lunch. You know what I order? The toffee pudding.
Yum.
That's all. I said, Jill, she's like, give him a whole one, and that's it. That's all. I think I might have gotten fish and chips, but I just couldn't wait to get my mouth onto that toffee pudding. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Payard's is not there anymore.
Oh, Philippe Bertineau, who is the executive chef, who is the chef de cuisine for Francois Payard. He is one of the most underappreciated chefs in North America. Philippe Bertineau. I would get along
with him well then, because I'm an
Philippe Bertineau was a remarkable chef, and I follow his career, and I just want people to know I think he's enormously talented and just incredibly kind, and he's a true artist.
And to end on that, shall we end on that? Garrett, we love you. Jennifer, anything last words for Garrett?
Listen, for Garrett, congratulations. The new issue is out on the newsstands. The May issue of Food and Beverage Magazine is out. We've got the James Beard Foundation nominations were announced this week. Join us on Friday. We're going to be tying it all together. We've got incredible guests coming to join us on Friday. And Garrett, do you know who's coming to join us on Friday? Is Jared Brown, who is one of the world's most influential spirits authorities, one of the pioneers from my Tales of the Cocktail days, and the co-founder of Sip Smith Gin, which is the first distillery in London in a very long time. And
they need to win one of these Proof Awards, proofawards.com.
I know. Wait until
proofawards.com.
But he, along with his incredible wife, Anastasia Miller, have written dozens of the most influential spirits books in the world. They're some of the most sought after teachers and experts. And I'll be really keen to get his take on all this as well. And as you know, I like to finish every show by saying, please hug your kids and count your blessings.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, Jennifer.